Welcome, my friends, to Uncomplicating Business. I am really excited to talk to you all about connection today, and I brought a partner in crime that I think you're really going to love. Please meet my friend Molly Godfrey, who really is just so ridiculously smart about all of these kinds of things. LinkedIn, for one, but lots and lots of other things. And I am absolutely delighted that she is going to talk to us here about connection and also live later in the month about connection and all of the things that are building relationships as human beings who also use the internet and do business, which is a whole combination of things. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me on today.
I'm delighted. Can you tell all the people, just if they don't know you yet, a little about what you do and just a little bit of the story, and then we'll talk about a million things.
Sure. Yes. So I do all things LinkedIn. So I help business owners use the platform to grow, attract more clients, but I take a really relationship forward approach. So to me, LinkedIn is just a giant amplifier of communities, of connections. Like it just happens to be a place we all hang out and have decided we want to use. But at the end of the day, it's connection, authentically using your voice, meaningfully sharing your expertise, talking about what you're good at, and kind of gathering in this online space. So, of course, I teach tactical strategies and lead generation, but really it's so much about community and connection and being open and willing to be generous and share with others and talk to others. So, I'm excited for this combo.
And then I muted myself. So that was fun. This is how it's going to go today, friends. Um, so it's funny when you say that it makes me feel like, it's treating LinkedIn as if you were in the coffee house version of it, right?
Totally.
If you were at like the coffee shop or the tea store or wherever you go to get your favorite thing, and you were like randomly, or you're like me and you're randomly talking to someone in line and asking them a million questions, this is that, right?
Totally. I tell people like leaving a comment on someone's piece of content is the digital equivalent of walking by their storefront and being like, "Hey Sally, love what you guys are up to. Hope you're having a great day. Love hearing about this." Like
Yeah.
it's just the digital equivalent of that.
Yes. It's like also the digital equivalent, I think, all the time of like, those are cute shoes.
Totally. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That you would like tell a stranger, you'd be like, that's awesome. I love your shirt or whatever. Like, and I will definitely, my kids are always horrified when they're like, stop talking to this lady you don't know. I'm like, well,
Yes.
but I would do that in public, so why wouldn't I do that on LinkedIn?
Right. I love,
So,
yeah, totally.
so when you and I talk about connection, when you talk to your people about connection, when you talk on LinkedIn about connection, what do you actually mean? What does it mean to you to connect and be connected?
Yeah, I love this question. To me, it's like you genuinely care. Like you care. You are a little bit invested in what this person's doing. You want to get to know them. You're curious. You are open. Like when I want to connect with someone, it's like, oh, I want to know more of the backstory. I want to know why you're interested in that. I want to know more about this so I can share about it. I want to know, do we have anything in common? Like I'm curious and I'm genuinely interested. Like
Hmm.
that's what I feel like connection, like interest and curiosity, if I had to distill it.
Well, and it's interest and curiosity. What I think is important is what you didn't say there, which is interest and curiosity, not necessarily to a specific end.
Totally.
Because I think
Yeah.
that's where it gets really weird really fast.
100%.
When you're like, I'm curious about you because I need you to do this. Well, that's not curious.
Right. Right. And I get it. We're all busy. We all do. Like at the end of the day, if we're on LinkedIn to a certain degree, like we do want to grow our business. We do want more clients. We do want to be more visible and get more seen. So I'd be lying if there wasn't some sort of outcome. But you know, detaching from that as much as possible and trusting that the connections that you make will ultimately lead to that, but not forcing it in any certain interaction. I
Yeah.
think
And
is
I
important.
trust is the key word, I think. And this podcast last season, all last year, every single episode for the entire year was about trust and
Oh,
conversations about trust because I think that that is the thing at the core of everything. As a business owner, like if you're trusting, because this is a really good example of it, if you're out in the world connecting with people and you trust that if you're doing that from a curious and open place, that it will take, that the things that are meant to happen will happen, everything is easier, right? You can't,
100%.
it doesn't help you to not trust that.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of my philosophy in life is I take actions and then I let go of the results.
Mm,
Like I trust that it's working itself out. And we never really know. Like,
no.
we can't
Well, but
fixate
that's
or
sort
control.
of the difference between trust and evidence,
Ooh, I like
right?
that.
Trust is evidence before there's evidence. It's believing before evidence, and that's why it's hard because you don't, people will be like, well, but I'll trust it as soon as I see the data. I'm like, well, that's not trust. That's data. That's different.
Totally. I really like that distinction.
And so for you, Molly, as a human, and you, Molly, as a business person, what have you learned about connection as your business and your work has evolved? Like, what are some of the things you've had to learn about connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think something I've really learned, certainly as a human, definitely some overlap in business, is that everyone has a really different capacity and a really different desire. So I like people. I'm very introverted, but I still I like people and I have a big capacity. Like I would love to know as much as you want to share. I want to go deep. I want to riff. I want to talk about complex and interesting things. And I don't necessarily want to keep things super surface level. Like I can go there if you want to. And I've really had to learn how to perceive and attune and notice when someone doesn't have that same capacity. I like founders because founders, or I love business owners because we've been on a growth journey. We've had to be
Mm.
resilient. We've had stuff happen. We can go there. We know that authenticity is what brings connection. And so I just love being in communities and spaces and events with other business owners because we get it. Like we really get each other. But I've had to learn that not everyone has that level of capacity. And so it's actually unkind to try and uh, instigate or try and invite someone into a deeper conversation than they want to be in, or try and
Mm.
want more connection than they want. Like sometimes I've been too overeager and I've been like, oh, I come with too much desire for connection. And so I've definitely gotten better at just assessing and reading. It's like, okay, you want to keep it in this way, totally fine. I can meet you there, I can match you there. We're good. And then it's so special when you meet someone that also just wants that same level. And you realize oh, that's not super common. Like when you can find that level of connection that you also crave and desire, it's such a gift.
Well, and I think it's interesting, like, because I also am an introverted human being. Like, I'm great at connection for work and for business and all these things because I've learned, because I've had to sort of teach myself how to do that in a way that allows me to still be my introverted self. Like, I'm not great at parties, but
Yeah.
I'm good at this.
Yeah.
And so it's also like, I too have a deep, deep, it's funny, you call it capacity, I call it nosiness.
Oh,
I just want to know all the things. Like I want
yeah.
to know why you did that thing and how many dogs you've had and also what you're trying to do in your business and why that's the thing. And I am fascinated by just the amazing stuff that people come up with and why they do it and how they got there. And it's fascinating because there's so many ridiculously brilliant people out in the world where you're like, really? Who knew that you also started as a ballroom dancer and then you turned from here to like, and you're like, what is even happening?
Right.
So it's interesting that you've learned that you sort of have to think about what the other person is really signaling at you
Totally.
in terms of what they're ready for and what they are capable of in that moment in terms of connection. And I think that varies for people on different days.
Oh, totally.
I think capacity for connecting like that grows as you grow a business, and I think it grows with experience,
Oh, I love that. 100%.
right? Because some of the newer people, you're like, oh, you're just not ready yet. Okay, hold on. What else have you learned?
Oh, I just love all that you said. Yeah, my capacity is very different on different days. What else have I learned? I've learned, I mean, this is so cliche and it's a little cheesy, but
Nope.
if you just really try and help other people, not like if I can just be more interested in you and figure out what you want and what you need and how I can help you be better,
Mm,
that can just go so far. And so now it's almost just like, it's just my way of being. It's like, what do you need? What do you want? How can I help you? How can I help you get there? Like, doesn't matter what I need. I know that will get taken care of and like
yep.
that will get solved. But if I can just genuinely, again, be interested, be curious, figure out how I can support you, everything works out for me in the end. It's
Every
wild.
time. Well, and I think it is what you're saying in some ways is if you can stay out of the way of the process,
Oh, I love that.
right? Like we get in our own way when we start making it about us. And
Yeah.
ultimately, connection isn't about us, and business is not about us, and none of it is about us. But when we are really focused on us as human beings are, right, it then becomes about us, and that's when we start to trip. And so I say to people all the time, I don't know if it's a Tony Robbins things or I can't remember where it came from, but there's one of those big guys out there that says if you don't know what to do, go help somebody,
Oh, totally.
right? And it's like, oh, well, I can go be useful today.
Yeah.
So in those moments, it's like, okay, what can I do that would be really useful for somebody right now? And then I'm out of my way because I'm thinking about somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, it cures everything. Like it really, my
Yes.
my how do I put it? The noise or the BS in my own head quiets and goes away when I just put my attention on helping someone else. I mean, maybe that's why I have this whole business is I get to focus on a lot of other people's needs.
Well, and that's kind of the magic of it, right? It's also interesting um, that the connection part of it becomes more meaningful for both sides when you can be just honestly for the other person.
Yeah.
And even the people that you and I both know, you and I both do a lot of connecting. You know the minute you get on a call when somebody is not that, when they
Yes.
haven't learned that yet.
Yeah.
And you kind of make a call on like, is this something they're learning or something they decidedly can't learn?
Mm.
So when you run into somebody where the connection really is about them, what happens?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, it's it doesn't really seem to ever it just gets stopped at a certain point.
Hmm.
And I think because it's just an energetic misalignment of like I can't really like these puzzle pieces don't really fit. Like
Hmm.
I'm lucky. I'm actually just trying to think about the last time I experienced that.
It's pretty
Oh,
rare. Yeah.
oh, you know what? It was at an event in the fall, and this, perfectly well-meaning woman just kind of came at me with that energy, and it was just like, this is not, this is just not a fit. Like I don't see myself kind of doing this dance with you.
Yeah.
And
So
so
what
it,
did you
yeah.
know? Like, what were the signals?
She just she asked me about my services and I was like, "Oh yeah, I do this." And then she just kept trying to grill me and like get me to solve her problem on the spot. And I was like, "Listen, this is work that I do with clients. Like this is I am not going to be able to figure this out for you right now. And she just like kept like she just like tried to really pick my brain and like
Hmm.
get as much, extract as much insight, from me in that conversation, which is fine. Like again, I don't mind being helpful, but it was very like entitled and like, oh, you're the expert. I want you to solve this for me right now. And it was like, I don't have enough context. I haven't even looked at anything. I can't even in good faith give you any advice in this spot in this moment. And most
Hmm.
people are fine with that. It's like, hey, listen, let's connect. Would love to like take a look through. We'll find time to talk. If I can support you, awesome. If not, but it was just like this very entitled, just like intense. There was just like no desire for who I was, like no
Yeah,
interest in
human.
knowing who I was, and it was just like not the vibe, not the vibe at all.
Well, and there's no have you ever read Adam Grant Give and Take?
I've heard a lot about it. I've read some excerpts from that people have sent.
But that's one of those like in there it's like there's neutral, there's giver, there's taker. And it's a very like gimme, 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 take, take,
Yeah.
take kind
Yeah.
of and there's a lack of curiosity in that taking that's not like, hey, I'm looking for information, but like how can I be of help to you also? Is that missing component in there, right? Like it's like for me often when it's like I feel like the energy gets weird when somebody's going down a list of questions. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever met those people where
Yeah.
you go to a networking thing and they're like, "Tell me about your business." And you're like, "Okay." And they're like, "Who is your ideal client? And where do you get your referrals?" And you're like, "Oh God, I just came to robot networking. Yay."
Yeah.
And that's weird.
Super weird. Totally. Yes, I've been there too. And again, it makes me appreciate so much more the people that can do that dance of like, let's just chat a little bit as humans before I start asking about blank blank blank. 'Cause it's just like,
Yes, where you're like, this is so weird. So here's the question. You are expert in a platform that lives on the internet, and yet here we are talking about actual human beings. So talk to me about that sort of paradox that is connection in the internet and for business, but through actual people. Like, what are your thoughts on all of that?
I know, I think about it a lot. I think it's for better or for worse. It just is kind of the direction the world is moving in. Things are getting more digital and more online and more at our fingertips. And so, you can either, what's the phrase? Make friends with the enemy. You can either
Hmm.
fight it or my work, how can we make this not awful? And how can we still make this authentic for you, given that we all kind of have to show up on here,
Mm.
you know? And so I do my best to just show up with authenticity and genuineness in this very sterile, sometimes intense, polarizing online space that we all kind of have to exist inside. So I'm of the belief that you can make this whole like online world still warm, still open, still kind, still again authentic. But there's certainly boundaries that I have with it. Like, gosh, my preference is like, wow, what if we all just lived in community and hung out and got to spend time with each other? Like, you know, in college was so fun. Like, we all just were around and then we went to events at night, but it's like,
Yeah.
we live far away from each other.
Yeah.
This is the central place. Um, how I kind of my antidote to so much online is I'm also just involved in a lot of places. So I have a lot of community and then we all just kind of populate onto
Hmm.
LinkedIn. But I think you have to figure out how to make it you and what's important to you. And so for me, like I love content and I love storytelling and I love reading. So I find the people that I love learning from, and like that's what makes it enjoyable. And I find the people that I love conversing with, and that's what makes it enjoyable. But if you can't figure out what's important to you, it's gonna feel awful. So for everyone, it's something a little bit different.
Well, but I do think the common thread in there is that even though you're on the digital platform for it, you're looking at the people.
Yeah,
You're
totally.
looking at the collection of humans that are stories you enjoy, that are conversations you enjoy. And odds are that when you find a person who's telling stories you enjoy, you say to them, "Hi, person, I would like to know you as a person."
Totally.
And I think
Yeah.
that that's a really interesting, I think we forget we're allowed to do that,
Yeah. 100%.
right? Because every now and then a client will say to me, "Oh, she's so interesting. I follow her on LinkedIn." And I'll be like, "Have you reached out?" And they're like, "Oh, whoa, me?" And you're like, I'm pretty sure she's just a person who would be like, "Oh, somebody wants to meet me. That would be fun," right? Like, I bet you get some of that. So you probably, as someone who is LinkedIn focused, get a lot of inbound on LinkedIn in terms of connection. What does that look like?
I do. Yeah. From all, like it's hard to even figure out where everyone comes from. But I do. And I'm at that stage where I just, even though I would love to, like I can't talk to everyone. Like I
Mm,
cannot put you all on my calendar. I cannot answer every question. And so this kind of speaks to this conversation of like, how are you standing out? How are you communicating your ideas? Like, how do you get my attention in this sea of just like so many people? But if, for the most part, I acknowledge everyone. I go through my followers every week and I say, hey, saw that you're following me. Wanted to personally reach out and say hello. More than that, if they want a ton more, I kind of have to direct them to the best place to go deeper.
resources and tools. Yeah.
But I do, I get a lot of inbound and I have to use my intuition a lot because sometimes people do still get in that want to sell me stuff or want something. And so I kind of use my instinct and then I might check them out. But I try I really try and save some capacity for LinkedIn because again, it just is where we all gather. And that's why I love being involved in communities. It's like, hey, I'm going to this event. Let's both go there and then we can talk about it after. Or, hey, I'm hosting this. So having
Hmm.
places where we can kind of populate after, I think makes it easier too.
Well, and it's like a component of connection rather than connection in and of itself, right? I think that that's some of what I see goes wrong sometimes early in business is when the interwebs become the connection instead of a piece of the connection, right? And that gets really tricky because it feels very much like shouting into the void, but because it's become the whole pie instead of just a portion. Do you see that in your world?
Totally. Totally. Gosh, it's so important to just be aware of just how you like to operate and just what's going to suit you best. But yeah, that comes up a lot for sure.
Well, and it is fascinating to me the amount of business advice out in the world that is sort of subtracted from human beings, where it's like, do these things, follow these 42 steps in this order, and you will have sales. And you're like, well, but did you forget the part where people buy from people?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, well, like I have as someone in my world right now, she'll be like, but what do you mean I have to talk to people? I'm like actual people. Yes, actual people. She's like on the phone? Like, maybe. She's like, well, I don't know why. That's not why I do what I do. I'm like, well, actually, it is. But it's fascinating to me trying to subtract out the connection, how many hoops we jump through to try to then do things that if we just like, you've done this where you've tried to fill out the online form and you've tried to make the reservation through the system and then you've tried to do the things when really all you needed to do was call the restaurant and you did everything in your power not to call the restaurant um, and avoid the person.
It's so funny you say this because I was at a conference last week and all of the data, there's been all these surveys recently from these big lead generation companies, and they all say our preference is to have a seller-free experience. We want to just submit and know the price and then decide at the very end we want to talk to someone. And I'm like, gosh, what does that say about us?
Yeah, but I don't actually believe that because, actually, it's not entirely true. I believe that is the case if I am buying shoes,
Ah, yeah,
right? Like if I'm buying a thing, then most of the time, like I don't need you to sell it to me because I know what I want.
yeah,
Like I want green shoes, and then I find green shoes. It is what it is. But if it's a service, I think that's very different.
yeah. I wonder what people had in mind when they were asking that. Because I agree, there's some things I don't want to talk to you. But then
Yeah,
there's other things I actually really do, like it's important that we talk.
right. And I think but if I think about the ways and the times I really want to talk to a human about it, it is almost always in a service context. From um, construction in my house, or like in the next couple of months, there will be somebody painting in here, not this room, but some of the other ones have some scary stuff going on in this new house. There are many murals, my friends, and it is time.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, on ceilings and all sorts of faux finishes and text. Oh God. And so we need some help, but like I would never hire a painter without having talked to them, right? Like that's somebody in my house. That's a person that I'm going to have to see. So I would never have a sales experience or something like that without actually having a conversation, right? And so I think it depends on what you're buying, but I wonder if when they're collecting that data, they're talking about services or products, because that's
Yeah,
curious to me.
yeah. Good question.
Because I like to know the people. And as there's a web designer I've worked with for a really long time here where I live. And he always says to me, he's like, I don't know. I always prefer to work with local people. And I say that I do too, because it's way easier for me to show up on your doorstep if I know where you are. And then you
Totally.
can't ignore me. Not that he ever would, but it's like I can find you. And I think once you know the human, it's like I say to people all the time when we connect, well, now you're stuck with me forever. Because once we know each other, we like know each other and know all of each other's people, and that really matters. Here is my one more question.
Yeah.
So, are there times where you start to feel disconnected or you start doing things and notice that it's because you're feeling disconnected? And like, when and how does that happen to you, right?
Mm, great question. Kind of back to where we started is if I'm really in my head and I
Mm,
am overanalyzing, overthinking, I'm in a story, I'm telling myself something that's not true, I'm in a lot of fear, I'm in a lot
mm,
of the opposite of trust and connection. If I'm so in that and I haven't meditated or I haven't talked to someone today or I haven't moved my body or I'm hungry or I am avoiding something and so now it's piling up. Like if I'm in that space, I am very disconnected.
mm,
I'm now comparing myself, I'm judging, I'm critical. And thankfully I know myself enough that like I do enough practices in my life so that that doesn't happen. But of course, like I don't know, once a week, a few times a week, sometimes daily, I get in that and then connection feels terrible. And
mm,
I like people everything just feels like a threat.
mm-hmm.
So in those moments, it's like, for the most part, I can catch it and be like, I need to go eat lunch. Or you know what? I need to get out of work for a second. I need to go walk the dog. Or I need to go to my workspace and talk to someone. Or I need to call someone. Or I need to check in. Like, I know what I need.
Mm,
And so, but you never want to like launch something or initiate something or start something from that place because
yeah.
that is disconnection for me. And so usually it's just one of those things can solve that. And then it's like, oh, she's great. Or, oh, look at that cool thing they're doing. Or, wow, I should really, you know, initiate something
Yes.
here.
Well, and
So,
that speaks to, one of the things we talk about all the time in the group I run is groundedness.
yeah.
And I think when you aren't sort of rooted like that, it's very hard to connect. And what you're telling me is when you notice you're sort of unrooted from your power, as it were, that you're like, well, even connection is weird and selling is weird and everything gets weird because you've sort of come a little unmoored, like the windsock people, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're a
Mhm.
windsock person, and then you're like, wait, have I eaten? Have I left my desk? Am I just like staring at this thing this other person's doing and thinking, holy shit, she looks really smart? And that gets really tricky. But if you can like, you know your ways, I know my ways to like plug myself back in and be like, wait, hold on. Is this really all of this? Like I was telling a client yesterday, I should have a sticker on my forehead that says, is this normal?
Mm.
Because all the number of times in a day I'm like, is this normal? And then I'll be like, yeah, it is. How about you calm down? And then I go
Totally.
back to what I was doing. Because just like everybody else, like I have once a day or twice a day or 10 times a day, I'm like, oh God, did I do that right? Then it's like, wait, is this normal to be this weird about this? Yes. Anyways, and move on, right? So, what is your favorite thing to think about connection?
Oh. I think when I approach a new relationship or a new conversation, it's just like, oh, what could happen from this? Like,
Mm,
what are the possibilities? Am I going to introduce them to their next best opportunity? Like, what is going to happen from this exchange? Because literally all the impactful, pivotal, life-changing moments come from a relationship. They come from an exchange, something happening, a conversation, advice, a suggestion, me sharing something, me asking for help. Like, literally everything happens in relationship.
mm.
And so it's just like, what could happen? I don't know.
Well, and it's so funny that what's funny to me is in your on the ungrounded moments, what can happen feels very scary.
Yeah.
But when you're in that trust and curiosity, it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen? It's like the best TV show or like the best kind of surprise. And it is really just a matter of how rooted you are in yourself that you get to discover which one is which. And
Yeah.
that's, like I think all the time, like the universe is conspiring in my favor. And that means that the connections are going to be exactly what they're supposed to be. And everybody is, way back when I was coaching teachers, I used to work with a woman who we just we were not meant to work together, maybe in some ways. Because I don't know. Every now and then you get matched up with somebody that you're like, whoa, this is not a great connection. But the thing I think, even in those circumstances, is like, what is she here to teach me? And so even the connections that you're like, oh my word. It's like, okay, what am I learning from this right now? And then maybe something magical is happening even in the weird ones. Because the weird ones happen. You've had weird ones. Tell me, okay, and then we're gonna finish. Tell me one of the weird ones.
Oh, okay, actually. Um, a woman found me somehow and she reached out to connect. She wanted to learn about my services. And I was on the West Coast for an event. I was so tired. It was like 3 hours earlier because I we had like an 8 a.m. call, so it was like
Oh,
5 a.m. Like it was bad. I was just like tired and not my best self. And she just like came prepared and like ready to evaluate me. And I just made like the
oh.
worst first impression. Like I was just groggy and I was just like, wow, not a great first impression, not the best. Anyway, she's now one of my like loveliest connections. She became a client, joined my community. We just spent the day we were at an event together yesterday and it's like that could have gone so differently. Like she could have just been like, this woman has no idea what she's doing and like I got to get out of here. But something in her just like trusted that I was having an off day and that wasn't my normal. And I've had other experiences like where I judged someone too soon or I like
Mhm.
had the wrong impression and it's turned out to be the opposite. So it
Mhm.
really has me thinking about the whole concept of first impressions and judgment. And I'm just so grateful that like she took a chance on me because that just was not a good day. And now it's just like one of the deeper connections I've made in the last 6 months.
Well, and it's also always so interesting to me that like your perception of it wasn't a good day is not also hers.
True.
Because she probably was like, well, that was great and carried on, right? Like we think the worst possible thing, like I was a horrible human and I was a mess. And they're like, were you? Right? You have that memory. I bet she would not tell that story that way.
Hmm.
You should probably make her tell you the story
Yeah,
so that
I
you get
should.
the other side of it. Because she's probably like, oh, and I thought you were great and smart and blah 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 blah. And you're like, oh, well, my perception is just completely skewed.
But you bring up such a good point of just like we all are experiencing different realities. And,
Yes.
you know, I don't know. I think it's great. I think it's maybe not so great sometimes, but just like,
Yeah.
wow, how how cool that we're all just so different and so complex and so nuanced and so unique. And somehow we found a way to live amongst each other and coexist.
Well, and the thing it always makes me think about is like, if we're going to make assumptions about what other people are going to think about us or the way we showed up, do we have to pick the worst one?
Oh,
Right? Like, if I'm going to assume, I might as well pick something good, right?
yeah.
Like, if it's going to be made up anyways, I might as well make up something useful. Um, Miss Molly, tell them all the places to find you. Not that they're not going to see you again in a couple weeks, but
Yeah, so the primary one that we've talked a lot about today is LinkedIn. So Molly Godfrey, my title is LinkedIn strategist. I also have a Threads account, which I've been growing. I'm a writer, so
Mhm.
I like to, I'm the written
Mhm.
word, although video seems to be
Coming for
getting,
you.
yeah, coming for me. And then let's see, I have a newsletter that I email out every week. So
It's great.
thank you. That's linked on my LinkedIn. And then I also have a educational membership, all things strategy, so how to use LinkedIn to grow, and that's called Impressions. You'll find that on my profile too.
Cool. And on the 24th, you and I are talking live, and we are going to talk about like connection without the cringiness. We are going to talk about like what we actually do and all the things and details and stuff. It should be really fun because this is like high level connection, but this is going to be like, okay, like how do you keep track of all this? You have all these inbound people. How do you keep track? What are you asking? What are you moving forward? What are you doing where? What are you doing why? And like how it actually works for her and for me and for all the people we know too much about. Because we both have plenty of examples of all the things. So please come. I will make sure the link to the sign up for that is in the show notes for this episode. Molly, you're a delight. I'm so glad to
Oh,
get to talk to you. Thank
that
you so
was
much
such
for
a
coming.
lovely combo. Thank you for having me. That was a lot of fun.